Good morning, students. Today's class we will see about the monitoring and feeding of high-risk neonate. Who is at high-risk neonate? At-risk neonate have one or more of the following features. Weight is between 1,500 to 2,499 grams. Temperature is axillary between 36 to 36.4. Babies with moderate or severe hypothermia who respond to warming. Cried late. Sucking is poor but not absent. Depressed sensorium but it is arousable. Respiratory rate over 60 per minute but not just retractions. Jaundice present but no staining of palms and sore. Presence of any of the following like diarrhea or vomiting or abdominal distension, umbilical straining, pus or pustules on skin, fever. So first one is providing warmth. Normal temperature is we have to prevent hypothermia. The cold distress temperature between 36 to 36 point. We have to treat hypothermia and hypothermia. To wrap the baby with extra layers of cloth, cover the head and limbs. Require the immediate exposure to radiant heat sources or other measures same for the cold distress. Second one is stabilization. Most of these babies do not require stabilization other than prevention of hypothermia as above. If there is any occasional apnea, physical stimulation may be provided. Monitoring of the babies. Temperature, sucking, sensorium, respiration, apnea, cyanosis, convulsion, bleeding, diarrhea, vomiting, abdominal distension. All these signs tabs should be monitored 2 hourly. Reevaluation. After stabilization and for specific therapy, baby has to be reevaluated for improvement. Two cardinal signs of improvement are temperature will become normal and second is baby will accept the feed well. Other signs as rapid breathing, depressed sensorium, abdominal distension, etc. will also start to improve. Such baby can send home after advising mother and family regarding the care at home. Prepare a brief note regarding baby's condition, treatment and advice. On other hand, if the baby does not improve and exhibits signs of indicative sick state, he should be referred to other hospital if needed. Mother and family should be taken to confidence that physician should organize efficient, stable transport of the baby. And communication with the family, like reassuring mother and family, prepare not registered the baby's condition. If a baby improves to be sent home, explain the care of the baby. If the baby does not improve or worsen, explain it for referral and care during the transport. Term infants at normal birth weight require minimal assistance for feeding. This is a feeding in the immediate postnatal period. They are able to feed directly from the mother's breast. In contrast, feeding of low birth weight babies is relatively difficult because of the following limitations. Many low birth weight babies are born premature and have inadequate feeding skills. They might also not able to breastfeed and would require other methods of feeding such as spoon or gastric feeding. They are prone to have significant illness which often precludes enteral feeding for the first few weeks of life. Preterm very low birth weight babies, infants have higher fluid requirements due to excessive insensible water loss. Because of intrauterine acquisition of nutrition occur mainly in the later part of the third trimester. Preterm very low birth weight babies have low body stores of birth, hence they require supplementation of various nutrients. Because of gut immaturity, they are more likely to experience feed intolerance, necessitating adequate monitoring and treatment. It is essential to categorize low birth weight babies infant into two major groups, sick and healthy, before deciding initial method of feeding. Sick infants, the group of constitute infant with significant respiratory distress requiring assisted ventilation, shock requiring inotrope support, such as symptomatic hypoglycemia, hypocalcemia, electrolyte abnormalities, renal or cardiac failure, surgical conditions of gastrointestinal tract, necrotizing enterocolitis, hydrops, etc. These infants are usually started with the intravenous fluids. Enteral fluid should be initiated as soon as they are hemodynamically stable. It is important to realize enteral feeding is most important even in the sick neonate. Oral feed should not be delayed in them without any valid reason. Even infants with respiratory distress and or assisted ventilation can start on enteral feeds on the acute phase is over and their color, saturation, and perfusion have improved. Similarly, sepsis, unless associated with shock or it is not a contraindication for enteral feeding. Healthy low birth weight baby enteral feeding should be initiated immediately after birth in healthy infants with appropriate feeding method determined by the gestational oral feeding skills. Maturation of oral feeding skills, breastfeeding require effective sucking, swallowing, and proper coordination between suck and swallow and breathing. These complex skills mature with increasing gestations. So gestation age below 28, no proper sucking effort, no propulsive motility. So 28 to 31, sucking burst develops no coordination between suck, swallow and breathing. 32 to 34, slightly mature sucking pattern and coordination between breathing and swallowing begins. After 34 weeks, mature sucking pattern, more coordination between breathing and swallowing. How to decide initial feeding method? Traditionally, the initial feeding method in a low birth weight baby has decided based on her birth weight. This is not an ideal way because feeding ability depends largely on gestation rather than the birth weight. However, it is important to remember that not all infants born in a particular gestation would have the same feeding skills. Hence, this is an ideal method given the infant who would be evaluate if the feeding skills expected for his or her gestation are present and decide accordingly. All stable infants, irrespective of their initial feeding method, should put on the mother's breast. Immature sucking observed in preterm infants born before 34 weeks might not meet their daily fluid and nutrition requirements but helps in rapid maturation of their feeding skills and to improve milk secretion in their mother, that is non-nutritive sucking. The spoon or parada feeding. In many NNICUs, units use parada feeding in low birth weight babies who are not able to feed directly from the breast. Intragastric tube feeding, intragastric versus orogastric feeding. Physiological studies have shown that nasogastric tube increases the airway impedance and work of breathing in very preterm. Orogastric tube feeding might be preferable in these infants. Intermittent bolus versus continuous intragastric feeding. There is no difference in the time to reach full enteral feeding or somatic growth of the incidence of necrotizing enterocolitis between infants fed by intermittent bolus or continuous intragastric feeding. Studies have shown that gastric emptying and diurnal motor response are enhanced in infants given continuous intragastric feeding. But a major disadvantage of this method is that lipids in the milk tend to separate and stick to the syringe and tubes during the continuous infusion, resulting in a significant loss of energy and fat content. This is a schematic representation of initial or starting of the feed for the different gestational age. Special situations like extremely low birth weight babies that are usually started in a parenteral nutrition from the day one of life. Enteral feedings in the form of more trophic feeding for the minimal enteral nutrition are initiated once the infant is hemodynamically stable. Further advancement is based on infant's ability to tolerate the feeds. Severe intrauterine growth retardation and neatly detected Doppler flow abnormalities. In the fetus, abnormal Doppler suggests absent or reversed end diastolic flow in the umbilical artery likely to have a mesenteric ischemia in utero. After birth, there have been significant risk of developing feed intolerance and necrotizing enterocolitis. An enteral feeding in a preterm neonate with a reversed end diastolic flow is usually delayed for 24 hours. Infants with CPAP or ventilation, these infants can be started with orogastric tube feedings once they are hemodynamically stable, but it is important to have tube open intermittently to reduce gastric distension. Usually keep the tube closed for 30 minutes after a feeding session and leave it open thereafter till the next feed. Choice of milk for low birth weight baby. All low birth weight baby, irrespective of their initial feeding method, should receive only breast milk. This can be ensured even those who infants fed by parada or gastric tube by giving express breast milk, the mother's own milk or human donor milk. Progression of oral feeding in preterm babies. Express breast milk. All preterm infants mothers should be counseled and supported in expressing their own milk for feeding their infants. Expression should be ideally be initiated within the hours of delivery so that the infant gets the benefits of feeding colostrum. Therefore, it should be done every 2 to 3 hours so that the infant is exclusively breastfed. This would help in maintaining the lactation in the mother. Express breast milk can store up to 6 hours in the room temperature and for 24 hours in refrigerator. The steps include mother should wash her hands thoroughly. She should hold a clean white mouth container near her breast. Ask her to gently massage the breast for 5 to 10 minutes before expressing the milk. Massage should not hurt her. Ask her to put the thumb above the nipples and areola and her first finger below the areola opposite to the thumb. She should be press the breast behind the nipple and areola between her fingers and thumb. Press and release, press and release. This maneuver should not be hurt. If it hurt, techniques is wrong. It may take some time before the milk starts coming. Ask her to press the areola in the same way from the sides to make sure that milk expresses from all segments of the breast. She should express one breast first till the milk flows slows, then express the other side, then and repeat both sides. Avoid rubbing or sliding her fingers along the skin. Avoid squeezing the nipple itself. Pressing or pulling the nipple cannot express the milk. Donor human milk in centers where the optimal milk banking facilities are available. Donor milk can be used. At present, only few centers in India have standardized the human milk banking facilities. Special situations like sick mothers, contraindications to breastfeeding. In these rare circumstances, options available are formula feeds and animal milk. How much milk to be given? It is essential to calculate the fluid requirement and feed volumes for infants under parida or gastric tube feeding. Fluid requirement. The daily requirement is determined based on estimated insensible water loss, other losses, and urine output. Extreme preterm infant needs more fluids in the initial weeks of life because of high insensible water loss. Many in NICU usually start fluids 80 to 60 ml per kg per body weight per day for infants weight between less than 1500 gram and less than 500 to 2500 gram respectively. Further requirements are calculated by daily estimation of weight loss gain, serum sodium, urine output, and specific gravity. The usual daily increment would be about 15 to 20 ml per kg. Usually reach maximum 180 ml per kg by day 14. The feed volume. After estimating the fluid requirements, the individual feed volume to be given by orogastric tube or parida can be determined. Nutrition supplementation in low birth weight baby, especially those who are born in a preterm, require supplementation of various nutrients to meet the high demands. The requirements of low birth weight babies infant differ significantly from those who birth weights of 1500 gram to 2499 gram. Supplementation of very low birth weight baby. These infants who are usually born before 32 weeks gestation have inadequate body stores of most of the nutrients. Among protein, energy, calcium, phosphorus, trace elements, and vitamin D, E, and K present in excess breast milk is often unable to meet the high daily requirement. Hence, these infants require multinutrient supplementation till they reach term gestation. After this period, the requirements are similar to those of infants whose birth weight is between 1500 to 2.499 gram. Multinutrient supplementation can be ensured by one of the following methods: supplementing individual nutrients like calcium, phosphorus, vitamins by fortification of excess breast milk by using either human milk fortifiers or preterm formula. Supplementing breast milk with individual nutrients. The following nutrients have to be added to the express breast milk: calcium and phosphorus supplements, vitamin A, B complex and zinc supplements, vitamin D drops, folate drops, iron drops. Some supplementation of minerals and vitamins would not meet high protein requirement of these infants. This should be usually not preferred. If used, supplements should be added to at different times in the day to avoid abnormal increase of the osmolality. Feed intolerance. The inability to tolerate enteral feedings in extremely premature infants is a major concern for pediatrician or neonatologists caring such infants. Often feed intolerance is the predominant factor affecting duration and hospitalization of these infants. Optimal feeding of the low birth weight baby is important for adult immediate survival as well as for subsequent growth. Unlike the normal birth weight counterparts, these infants have vastly different feeding abilities and nutritional requirements. They are also prone to develop feed intolerance in the immediate postnatal period. It is important for all healthcare providers caring for such infants to be well versed with necessary skills acquired for feeding them. It is equally important to have a protocol-based approach to manage various issues that occur while feeding them. Thank you.